A little while back, the Seattle Mariners took 2 out of 3 in Toronto against the Blue Jays. How did things go in Seattle? Let's find out. Lights up. Let's go Blue Jays. Game recap. Mariners versus Blue Jays Mother's Day extravaganza begins now. The Blue Jays are back, and right now, with the game having gone final, we are welcoming you in to Blue Jays Game Recap on the Sports for Beginners podcast. Now, let's go to your hosts of Blue Jays Game Recap, Thomas McGregor, Ali Musa, and Scott McGregor in the Sports for Beginners podcast studio. Take it away, gentlemen, because when the umpire says, "You're out," or "That's the game," or "Let's play ball," we know it's time for some baseball. This is Blue Jays Game Recap. Take it away, gentlemen. Good afternoon to all of our listeners on the East Coast and, of course, wherever you may be listening to. Not to sound like Steve Dangle, who I appreciate and enjoy listening to on LFR, but Blue Jays sweep the Mariners! And they win 9-1 on the Mother's Day weekend. What's going on, Blue Jays fans? Welcome in, and welcome to our Seattle Mariners fans as well. Blue Jays won over the Seattle Mariners. They won the series 3-0 in Seattle after Seattle took 2 out of 3 in Toronto earlier this year. My name is Scott McGregor. I am your host of the program. You can also find Blue Jays Game Recap on the Ice and Behind the Benches with Thomas McGregor as your host, or as you can call us, Scott and Thomas. Before we jump into everything around this series, I gotta say this to all those who celebrated over the weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. I hope you had a great weekend. And of course, I want to remind you that we are recording this on Tuesday, 13th, 2025, ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays series in Toronto against the Toronto Blue Jays, set to go at 7:07 p.m. tonight. Lots to get into, including the line score for each game, which we will get into. We will jump into the scoring for each game, and I will provide at least one pitching line from one of the 3 games. But before we do any of that, and also take our first break of the program, in case you missed it on the latest episode of Sports for Beginners, I wanted to give a special shout out to the host of The Melting Pot on Sienna T Radio, Nick Blazewitz. Nick celebrated 3 years of running The Melting Pot every Saturday on Sienna T Radio this past Saturday, and wanted to give a quick shout out to him just before we get into things. And speaking of getting into things, let me actually rephrase that. Just before we got into things, and speaking of getting into things, let's get right to it now. First, let's meet the managers, and they are Dan Wilson, for the Seattle Mariners and John Schneider for the Toronto Blue Jays. Now that we have met the managers, let's meet the starting pitchers on the mound, or in what I like to call the meeting on the mound. Once we are through there, we will take a quick break, and after the break, we will take you into the line score of each game and provide you a brief synopsis of scoring from one of the 3 games in this series. Without further delay, let's get to it. Game 1 played out on Friday, May 9th, 2025, and it featured a meeting on the mound between Kevin Gossman, who would go for the Blue Jays, against Luis Castillo, who would go for the Seattle Mariners. In game number 2, we had this matchup for both teams on the mound. Both Friday and Saturday's games were night games, by the way. And in Saturday night's game, our meeting on the mound for Toronto and Seattle was Bowden Francis versus Logan Evans. Yep, you heard me. Logan Evans versus Bowden Francis. And the afternoon game was on Sunday afternoon, and it featured this meeting on the mound with Jose Urania going for the Blue Jays against Bryce Miller, who would go for the Mariners. All right. Our commercial break is fast approaching. But you know what? We have a little bit of time here, so I'll briefly touch on Game 1's line score. But in case you missed it earlier, our managers are John Schneider for the Blue Jays, for all the Blue Jay fans out there, and Dan Wilson for the Seattle Mariners. Oh, by the way, we'll take a look at the MLB standings later on in the show, but of course, as of the last game day for the MLB, and specifically for these 2 squads, the records going into their upcoming series starting today, and actually the one that started last night for Seattle, which was against the Yankees. Let's just say their homestand not off to a good start after they took 2 out of 3 against the Athletics. But anyways, when you look at it standings wise, the Blue Jays record coming into the matchup with the Tampa Bay Rays, which we'll talk about later in the show, is, as we speak with you, it is 20-20. The Seattle Mariners record right now is 22-18. They lead the division, where the Athletics find themselves in second place. However, coming into that matchup with the Yankees, the Mariners record was 22-17. They lost the opener of that match 11-5, and now they will play game 2 later on this evening. With that said, we'll get back to that later. All right, meeting on the mound out of the way, managers out of the way. We're going to now take a quick break, and I will get to the line score of game 1, 2, and 3, and we'll see if we have time to bring in the scoring. But one thing I can tell you for sure, 2 games in this series on Mother's Day, which was on Sunday, May the 11th, 2025. 2 games, in particular the Friday and Saturday game, ended in the same final score with the same victor. Of course, not the same pitchers. I will tell you that right now. Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, line score and scoring when Blue Jays game recap continues. Plus, I want to get into just one pitching line from each side of the field in one game. Once again, the final score of the Mariners and the Blue Jays on Sunday was 9-1. The Blue Jays beat the Mariners 9-1. All right. With that said, we will take a quick timeout. When we return, we'll break down the game by line score. So don't miss it, because it's next on Blue Jays Game Recap as our Mother's Day extravaganza continues.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Sienna T Radio.
Blue Jays win the series 3-0. They defeated Seattle in Seattle's home barn 3-0, winning on Friday and Saturday 6-3. And then on Mother's Day, which was the 11th of May, this past Sunday, they took down the Mariners 9-1. We'll get into it all in just a little bit, but just a reminder of the last series, the Mariners took a 2-1 lead in the series as there was only one meeting in Toronto and now one meeting here in Seattle. Toronto took one. And when you look at that, 1, 2, 3, and then you go to May, that'll be 4, 5, and 6. The Blue Jays won one game in their home barn, lost the other two to Seattle, and then came into Seattle's home barn and took all three. So our final tally, Seattle has taken 2 out of 6 games. They lost all 3 at home. Toronto took 1 at home, lost 2 at home, beat Seattle in all 3 on the road. Seattle only beat Toronto twice in Toronto. So with that said, out of 6 games, Toronto wins the series 3 games out of 6. They won all 3 on the weekend in Seattle. They lost 2 on the weekend. The Mariners were in Toronto, but they took the opener. So they took that opener in April in Toronto, 3-1 in the middle of April. Lost on Saturday. And then Sunday, bounced back. Of course, those were the 2 only wins for Seattle. Seattle would lose the next 3 games in Seattle by the final scores I mentioned earlier on of 6-3 Saturday and Friday. Sunday was 9-1, and all things considered, they also lost earlier last night when we're not recording this, but they lost last night to the New York Yankees 11-5 on a special night in Seattle, Star Wars night. A little late to the party because it was May 4th, but they were on the road that weekend. May the 4th be with you. They still did Star Wars night. It was just a weekend late. Well, a weekday late, I should say. All right, with that said, let's jump into this ball game. Blue Jays took 1 game in Toronto. Seattle took 2 in Toronto. They lost all 3 to Toronto in Seattle. And here we go. In your line score for game 1, for the Blue Jays, 6 runs on 10 hits, no errors. They left, in terms of men on base, they left 7 men on base, had 16 total bases, and 1 home run. For the Mariners, 3 runs on 9 hits, no home runs, 11 total bases, 1 error, 9 men left on base, and no stolen bases. Game number 2 was also 6-3. That was Saturday. And this time there are no errors in this one. For the Blue Jays, 6 runs on 10 hits, no errors. For the Mariners, 3 runs on 6 hits, no errors. To add to that in their team comparison, 1 home run each by each club, 10 total bases for Seattle, 14 for the Blue Jays in total bases. They left 9 men on base. The Mariners left 4 men on base. Blue Jays with the only 2 stolen bases awarded in this one, in game 2 on Saturday. And in game number 3, for the Blue Jays, 9 runs on 15 hits, no errors. For the Mariners, 1 run on 4 hits, no errors. The Mariners left 2 men on base, had 8 total bases, no stolen bases for either club. I should say 8 total bases, 2 men on base, no stolen bases, a home run of their 4 hits. The Blue Jays hit 2 home runs of their 9 runs and 15 hits. They had 24 total bases, not stolen bases. No stolen bases. And besides no errors, they had 8 men left on base in game number 3 on Sunday. on Mother's Day. All right, we got a little bit of time here. Let's see if we can breeze through game 1 and get to game number 2 and 3. Here we go with our Friday scoring line. Addison Barger gets things started with his 4th double of the season. Right field, Bo Bichette scores on the play. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. also scoring on the play. And George Springer will go to third base on this double by Addison Barger. Blue Jays take a 2-0 lead. It will become 3-0 on an Ernie Clement single to right field. Addison Barger scores on this play. But wait a minute, didn't we just see Addison Barger in the first inning? Yes, we did, but he did not hit in the second inning. They got to him in the third. In the third inning, by the way, Ernie Clement, on a line drive into right field, he will score Addison Barger. And then his second home run of the season, Nathan Lukes with a home run, his second home run of the year. It's a 2-run shot, and just like that, it's a 3-run third inning for the Blue Jays. And it's 5-0 Toronto. Bottom of the third we go. Jorge Polanco picking up a single to score Ben Williamson. J.P. Crawford going to third on the play. It's 5-1 Toronto. Bottom of the sixth we go. Randy Arozarena picking up a single of his own. Ground ball to center field. Julio Rodriguez will score. Cal Raleigh going to second on the play. Still in the bottom of the second, Cal Raleigh scores on this play. Randy Arozarena, it's a double for Leody Taveras, his 4th double of the season. Randy Arozarena scores, he goes to third. Cal Raleigh goes in on this play. 5-3 Toronto. But in the bottom, in the top of the ninth, it's Dalton Varsho out on a sacrifice fly, but Tyler Heineman scores on the play. And that makes it 6-3 Toronto. So Toronto will win it by 3 points and improve their record from 19-20 to 18-20. That is where they were coming into the game. And coming into this series, the Mariners were 22-14. After this loss, they are 22-15. The Mariners saw a Blue Jays team in the opener of this series at 19-20. With that win, the Blue Jays, 17-20. With that win, they go up to 18-20. With the win on Saturday, the Blue Jays go up to 19-20. And we will get to how it went down and also get into game number 2 in just a matter of moments. But first, we will take a quick commercial break. When we come back, game 2, scoring. Game 3, scoring if we have time. Otherwise, we'll take another break and get to that. And then, of course, players of the series is right around the corner. But first, I want to get into a pitching line from one of these 3 games. And you'll find out which line we're going to go to in a matter of moments. We'll take a look back at our standings as we enter play today. Reminder, the first game of the series that followed the Blue Jays series with the Mariners, for the Mariners, has gone final. And again, the final score, 11-5, Yankees over the Mariners. They are in the Pacific time slot, so this means that tonight's game will be at 9:40 p.m. Eastern. And of course, it will also take place at 6:40 p.m. Pacific, 8:40 p.m. Central, weather permitting. All right, with that being said, and out of the way, we'll take a quick word from our buddy over at On the Ice and Behind the Benches and Broadcast Map and come back with game number 2 and 3, scoring line, if we get an opportunity. Blue Jays game recap, Mother's Day extravaganza rolls on right after those words.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. search Broadcast Map.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches. Our Mother's Day program of Blue Jays game recap continues, and with one 6-3 victory out of the way, for the Blue Jays game recap rundown, we move on to game number 2. Once again, the last play of game number 3, in case you of game number 1, was a Dalton Varsho sacrifice fly that scored Tyler Heineman. In the second game, which was on Saturday night, this time Rowdy Tellez gets things going. His 6th home run of the season. It's a fly ball to left center field, and we get things going in the bottom of the second this time. So Seattle this time has the lead, thanks to a home run off the bat of Rowdy Tellez. Flash forward, bottom of the 4th, Randy Arozarena, 9th double of the season for Randy Arozarena, scores Julio Rodriguez. Cal Raleigh going to third on the play. 2-0 Seattle in the bottom of the 4th. Still in the 4th inning, Leody Taveras picking up a sacrifice fly that scores Cal Raleigh. Randy Arozarena tags up, goes to third. It is 2 outs, but Seattle is in the lead, ahead by 3, 2 innings in. I should say 4 innings in, because no runs were scored in the 3rd, no runs were scored in the 1st. We start in the bottom of the 2nd in this one. Top of the 5th we go. 2nd home run of the year for Bo Bichette. Fly ball right center field. Miles Straw scores on the play. Blue Jays on the board. It's 3-2. Seattle. Top of the 6th. Here come the Blue Jays. It's now 3-3. After an Addison Barger force out. So he grounds into a force out, which gets Alejandro Kirk out at second. George Springer will score on the play. Barger does reach first base in this force out. Just to recap, Kirk is out at second base. Addison is able to beat out the tag, and George Springer scores on the play. It's now 3-3. In the top of the 8th, the Blue Jays have taken the lead on back-to-back singles. First, Addison Barger for the lead, with George Springer scoring on Barger's ground ball into right field. And then a Miles Straw single scores Addison Barger and Ernie Clement, and makes it 6-3 Blue Jays. Miles Straw's single makes it 6-3 Blue Jays, as Addison Barger and Ernie Clement, shout out to my boy Ernie, they both score on that play in the top of the 8th inning. And then in Jeff Hoffman, and of course nothing happening in the top of the 9th for the Blue Jays, but Jeff Hoffman closes things out. Every time the moon shines, I become alive. Shout out to the boys who created that song, Alive. It's an adaptation, I believe, of Alive. And I believe a lot of, I just said some lyrics. I don't have the actual music playing right now. Because if I did, I would face copyright stuff, and I really don't want to do that. So I just was repeating a line from the song that I actually picked up on, which is, again, every time the moon shines, I become alive. Jeff Hoffman had pitched in both Friday and Saturday's games. He did not pitch in game number 3, but that's okay. Speaking of game number 3, let's go ahead and take a look at our scoring moments. We began with a top of the 2nd action. and then went to the bottom of the third. Myles Straw getting things started in this one. By this point in time, the Blue Jays are 19-20, and the Mariners, the Seattle Mariners, are 22-16. They were 22-14 coming into the series, and the Blue Jays were 17-20 coming into the series. Going into game 2, the Mariners were 22-15, and the Blue Jays were 18-20. Going into game number 3, they were 19-20 for the Blue Jays and 22-16 for the Mariners. Myles Straw gets things started in game number 3. A single on a sharp line drive to center field. Julio Rodriguez is in center field at the time. Ernie Clement will stop at second base. Nathan Lukes scores on the play, 1-0 Toronto. So in Friday and Sunday's game, the Blue Jays grabbed the lead. Of course, by the way, this was the Mother's Day game on Sunday. Bottom of the third we go, Dylan Moore evens things up quickly with his 7th home run of the season. Fly ball to left center field. 1-1 after 3 innings of play for the moment. Speaking of my boy Ernie, sac fly for Ernie Clement. Alejandro Kirk scores on the play. Nathan Lukes is going to score as well. Actually, he's going to go to second base on the play. Kirk scores on the sacrifice fly by Ernie Clement, and Nathan Lukes does reach second base. So the Blue Jays are back in front, 2-1. Top of the 5th, a 3-run shot by Springer Dinger, George Springer. 5th home run of the year for George. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Addison Barger score, and the Blue Jays have opened it up in the top of the 5th inning. They have opened it up now 5-1, so now they are ahead by 4 runs. Top of the 6th we go, and the Blue Jays continue. 2-run score here in the top of the 6th inning on a double by Jonathan Clase, I should say. First double of the year on a sharp line drive to center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Nathan Lukes and Ernie Clement score on the play. 7-1 Toronto. Now the Blue Jays are up by 6. Touchdown Toronto. And they go up by 2 more after an Addison Barger home run. First of the year for Addison Barger to right field in the top of the 7th. And later in the inning, Nathan Lukes singles on a sharp line drive to center field. George Springer will score. Julio Rodriguez was the center fielder at this time, but George will score at this point in time. Bryce Miller on some of the more coverage had said after the game, even though he's still searching for his lights out 2024 form, he says, haven't felt like myself. Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I didn't really watch a lot of the game, but apparently it paid to not watch the game, because when that happened, the Blue Jays won. Now, Maple Leaf and Panthers fans, just to go on to, I'm not going to try to go off topic here for a second, but just for a little second here, for the Maple Leaf fans, it's hard for me to say this, but when I'm not watching the Maple Leafs play a hockey game, they win. And obviously, Sunday, when the team last played, I believe it was Sunday, or maybe it was Saturday, I don't know. Was it Sunday or was it Saturday? I think it was Sunday. I'm gonna check to make sure. When did they last play? Yes, indeed, it was Sunday. Now, the team may have only lost game 4 by 2 runs. Or sorry, two goals. 2 goals to the exact. Let's say 2 goals, because that's what hockey terms are. But, in the end, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. I thought, if I wasn't watching this game, the Maple Leafs would win this game. They did not. But you know what? The good news is, even though the series is tied 2-2, the good news is we get to play another one on Wednesday night in Toronto. And the even better news, we should at least play Game 6 Friday night, but we're hoping not to play Game 7. That's what Leaf fans do not want. But anyways, back to baseball. All right. So the scoring is out of the way. 9-1 the final on Sunday. The final on Saturday and Friday was 6-3 in favor of the Blue Jays. The records going into the Yankee series for the Mariners, they were at 22-17. They are now at 22-18 with a loss to the New York Yankees. The Yankees were at 23-17. They are now 24-17. The Blue Jays, meanwhile, faced the Tampa Bay Rays, who were idle yesterday. So coming into this season, I should say coming into this set with the Rays are 18-22. The Blue Jays are 20-20. That was the record at the end of the series. And again, the Blue Jays winning the series 3-0 after taking one game in their home barn. It took all three in the Seattle Mariners' home barn. Seattle took two in Toronto's home barn. All right, pitching line coming up very shortly, but first we're going to take a quick timeout. And then I'm going to get into the pitching line for game number 1. And from there, we will move into players of the series. Get a look at the rest of the standings later. And after the final break of the show, next time on Blue Jays Game Recap, who else is Seattle facing other than the Yankees? And who's next in Toronto after the Tampa Bay Rays? Stick with us, the pitching line. Who's next for Toronto in Toronto after the Rays? Who's next for Seattle after the Yankees? Game 1 pitching line and players of the series. Next, stay with us. Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our Mother's Day extravaganza of Blue Jays Game Recap, Blue Jays and the Mariners. Quick reminder here that, again, you can catch the Blue Jays Game Recap programming also available on the Ice and Behind the Benches with our host, Thomas McGregor. Of course, it hasn't been as of late since we began the season, but that's okay. I've been with you since the beginning of the season. I am Scott McGregor, your host of the program on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. It is time for pitching line. And our pitching line of choice, we're going to go into game number 1, which featured Kevin Gausman and Luis Castillo. We're going to start with the pitching line for Seattle. Luis Castillo, who came into this game with a record of 3-2, comes out of this game with a record of 3-3. Same thing can be said for Kevin Gausman. His record was 3-2. I should say 2-3. Record is now 3-3. Gausman went 5 1/3 innings. Of course, this is now for the Blue Jays. I swapped over to the Blue Jays. Gausman with 5 1/3 innings, 7 hits given up, 3 runs earned, 3 strikeouts for Kevin Gausman in this one, an ERA of 3.97. Brandon Little next to pitch for the Blue Jays, first out of the pen, goes an inning and 2/3 with 1 hit given up and 3 strikeouts, an ERA of 2 for Brandon Little. The next to pitch in game number 1 would be Jimmy Garcia. Goes an inning, gives up 1 hit, walks 2 batters, strikes out 2 Seattle Mariner hitters, an ERA of 3.94 coming out of the game. 4 was the ERA for Jeff Hoffman, who picked up his 8th save of the season in game number 1 on account of no runs given up, no hits, no walks, no home runs given up, and 3 strikeouts in 1 inning of work. Luis Castillo, 5 innings of work, 7 hits given up, 5 earned runs given up, a home run given up, and 3 strikeouts, along with 2 walked batters on the Seattle side of things. An ERA of 3.95. Next up, to pitch, and first out of the pen for the Mariners in this one, it would be Casey Lugmina, Casey, we're going to go with Casey L in case I pronounced that wrong. 2 innings of work, 3 strikeouts, nothing given up. ERA, by the way, for Luis Castillo is 3.95. 45 for KCL. For Snyder, who was the next guy out of the pen for Seattle. On Snyder, 1 inning of work, a hit given up, 2 strikeouts, an ERA of 3.31. And last but certainly not least, out of the pen, Troy Taylor, 1 inning of work, no strikeouts given up, no home runs given up, a walk issued, an earned run, I should say, was given up by Troy Taylor, and 2 hits given up as well. ERA of 11.25 in one inning of work. All right, so that's the pitching line we're looking at. We'll get to players of the series in a second, but before we get there, here are your top performers and player of the game. The player of the game was Addison Barger, who went 3 for 4. 3 doubles, 2 RBIs, and a run scored. He went 3 for 4. He is one of our top performers. Our top performer in game number 1 for Seattle was Randy Arozarena, 2 for 3, a double, a walk, and an RBI. And the other top performer for the Toronto Blue Jays was Bo Bichette, 2 walks, a run scored, and he went 2 for 3 in game number 1. In game number 2, the top performers and player of the game, they're all the Blue Jays. Second time a charm for Bo Bichette. A home run, a double, a walk, 2 RBIs, and a run scored. He went 2 for 4. Bowden Francis was the player of the game, going 6 2/3, giving up 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 5 strikeouts for Bowden, and Alejandro Kirk, 4 for 5 in the game. Not much to expect there with Alejandro Kirk. And last but certainly not least, game number 3. We didn't go over the pitching line in game number 2 and of course in game number 3, but we went over game 1. In game number 2, the player of the game was George Springer, 2 for 5. He's also a top performer. A home run, double, 3 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. 2 walks, an RBI, and 2 runs scored for a 3 for 3 Nathan Lukes. And Eric L. Eric, if I pronounced the last name wrong, some sincerest apologies. He goes 4 2/3, gives up a hit, strikes out 3 Mariners, no earned runs, and also would end up with the win, his first win of the season. Bryce Miller was 2 for 3 coming in, is credited with the loss, his 4th loss of the season, a 2-3 record coming in. Jose Urena in his 2nd outing as a Toronto Blue Jay. I thought he put on a pretty good show. Of course, Bowden and Logan Evans, or Luke Evans. I'll double check to make sure I have that right. No, I had it right. Logan Evans. They pitched pretty well, but the win would go to Mason Fluharte, his 3rd win of the year. Hoffman with the 9th save of the season in the Saturday game. Again, that's a save situation also on Friday, which is how Hoffman got his 8th save of the season. The loss would go to this man in game number 2, Carlos Vargas, who I thought was pitching pretty well. Again, I will check out some of the highlights later if I get an opportunity. But for the Blue Jays, to sweep a team, and I brought this up on our May 9th recording that we dropped over the course of the week, and we actually dropped it on Saturday. I said I would be happy with a 2 out of 3 against Seattle after they did that to us in April for Blue Jay fans to know. I would have been happy with that. I said that, and guess what? I'm even more happy that we got the sweep. But you know what? I'm going to make a prediction. Well, before we get to predictions, let's talk players of the series. And for me, for the Blue Jays, I got to talk about, let's see. We're going to pick from for the Blue Jay, we'll pick from game number 3. You know what? George Springer was 2 for 5, but Nathan Lukes 3 for 5, 3 for 3 in the game. Wow. The Mariners just could not get Nathan Lukes out. They could not get him out. 3 for 3, Nathan Lukes. Oh, by the way, he walked twice. That was a pretty good performance by Nathan Lukes. Another person who did pretty well, my boy Ernie Clement, 3 for 4. He did pretty well. And for the players of the series in Seattle's favor, we got to take you to game number 1. Specifically, I got to take you to... Actually, no, we got to take you to game number 2. And specifically, I got to take you to the bottom of the second. And I gotta take you to Rowdy Tellez. I don't know what it is, but I think Rowdy enjoys playing against the Jays than maybe playing with them. He went 1 for 4 in game number 2 with the home run. The only run of the game... no, not the only run of the game. The only home run of the game, I believe, in this one. I'll double check. I mean, I know I probably mentioned it in our... scoring. But I'll double check just to quickly make sure based on the team comparison. Yes, that was the only home run they would hit. In this one, they hit 2 in game number 1. They did not get any, I believe, in game number 3. No, they hit 1 home run, but the Blue Jays hit 2. George Springer had 1 in game number 3, and Addison Barger had 1 in game number 3 as well. Alrighty, wrapping things up here. Our player of the series for Seattle, besides my boy Nathan Lukes, and of course I also mentioned a nice shout out to Ernie Clement, who played really, really well in game number 2. I thought at least we got to give it to Rowdy Tellez. Big play by Rowdy Tellez in game number 2 of the series. And then of course you got to give big plays out to Dylan Moore. Really big game for him. 7th home run of the season. All things considered, Blue Jays will win it 3-0. They take the series. And of course, as I said before when I opened up the show, not to sound like Steve Dangle, but Blue Jays win 9-1 over the Seattle Mariners on Mother's Day on Sunday, May the 11th, 2025. All right, players of the series out of the way. We will take one final commercial break, get you a look at where the standings are as we enter play today. And of course, it's time to look at the upcoming matchups, upcoming series. Of course, the series, as I mentioned off the top of the show, and throughout the show, the series with the Yankees and the Mariners has gotten underway. Mariners lost game 1 of that game, 11-5, on Monday, May the 12th, 2025. That was yesterday. They continue that series tonight at 9:40 p.m. Eastern, 6:40 p.m. Pacific, 8:40 p.m. Central, 7:40 p.m. Mountain. With that said, we will get to the Blue Jays and the Mariners next upcoming matchups. Plus, where the standings stand in the regular season going into play today. And of course, what can you expect next time on Blue Jays Game Recap? The recaps of Seattle and Toronto are in the books. So who's next for Seattle and Toronto? Our final scores once again before we take the break. 6-3 Blue Jays on college night at T-Mobile Park. And on Maple Grove night, which was Saturday night, the Blue Jays beat the Mariners 6-3. And on Mother's Day, a clear structured purse giveaway was given out, but the Blue Jays also win that game 9-1. Where do the standings stand? What's up next? Who is up next after the Tampa Bay Rays? Stay tuned. You find that out next.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
All right, we're back here on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. Thank you very much to Sean Pickard, and of course, thank you very much to our good buddy Ali and our good friend Sienna for all of their contributions, especially when it comes to sending us commercial ads, like for the Take Another Look podcast, hosted by my good friend Melanie Taddeo Malo, and of course, her good friend Gerda Felix. Great work by both of these women on that program, and I also really like what we have going on here with Sienna and Ali. Ali's got great content, some book panels, like for example, he's done some book panels with Makara, a former member of the Spicy Techie podcast, but I'll let Sienna break us down on that and why that had to, be halted effective immediately. That's going to be on her end. I'm not going to speak for her. I won't speak for Ali either, but I will say that Ali's got some great content, book panels, sports interviews, broadcasting media landscapes, politics, you name it, he's got it. With that all being said, we have a show to wrap it up. So let's wrap it up here, starting with, before we get into the schedule of where the Blue Jays and the Mariners are, where teams stand heading into today's action. And speaking of action, I will bring up a little bit of those matchups. Let's start in the American League. The New York Yankees, as mentioned, are 24-17. The Boston Red Sox are 22-21. Blue Jay fans, our Blue Jays heading into the series with the Tampa Bay Rays are 20-20. Speaking of the Tampa Bay Rays are 18-22. Heading into action tonight, the Baltimore Orioles are 15-24. In Seattle's division, they lead that division, the AL West, at 22-18. The Athletics are second in the division at 21-20. The Texas Rangers are 21-21 in third place. At 20-20, the Houston Astros are in fourth. And at the very bottom of the barrel, we have the Los Angeles Angels at 17-23. The Chicago White Sox are 12-29 at the bottom of the barrel of the AL Central. The Detroit Tigers are the AL Central leaders at 27-15. Right behind them are the Cleveland Guardians at 24-17. The Minnesota Twins are ahead of the Chicago White Sox at 21-20. And at 25-18, right in the middle between Minnesota, Chicago, and of course Cleveland and Detroit, smack dab in the middle, it is the Kansas City Royals at 25-18. In the National League, the New York Mets are 27-15. The Philadelphia Phillies are 24-17. The Atlanta Braves are 20-21. The Washington Nationals are 17-25. And the Miami Marlins are 15-25. That's in the NL East. In the NL Central, the Chicago Cubs are 24-18. The St. Louis Cardinals are 23-19. The Cincinnati Reds are 20-22. Same for the Milwaukee Brewers. They are 20-22. And the Pittsburgh Pirates are at the bottom of the barrel of the NL Central at 14-28. And last but certainly not least, the Los Angeles Dodgers are the top dogs in the National League West at 27-14. The San Diego Padres are 25-15 and second place currently. The San Francisco Giants are 24-18. And again, San Diego Padres are 25-15. The Giants are 24-18. The Arizona Diamondbacks are 22-20. And the Colorado Rockies, who this just in, hired somebody in their coaching staff. Yeah, that's right. This just in, the Colorado Rockies have fired somebody. It's not yet on the MLB website, but I was able to find out that there is a report that someone in Colorado has been fired. I'm not exactly sure who that is, but I will let you guys know later on that end. But anyways, the Rockies' record as we speak is 34-7. That's not a good record. That's not a good record. That really is not a good record. The Rockies are going to need to do some serious damage control to try to even have a shot at making the playoffs, but they're going to have a real good rest of the first half of the season heading into the All-Star break, which is in July, and that's 2 months away. All right, ladies and gents, we started this show right around noon in the afternoon today on Tuesday, May the 13th, 2025, but just might end it just before we get close enough to first pitch, which is at 7:07 p.m. Eastern for the Blue Jays and the Rays. For the matchup for the Yankees and the Mariners, that game getting going at 6:40 p.m. Pacific time, 9:40 a.m. p.m. I should say, Eastern time. The starters. Now, you know what? I'm not going to worry about the starters for this one. We'll do that on the Tampa. We will do the Tampa Bay and Blue Jay things, or in Blue Jays starters, on our meeting on the mound on our next Blue Jays game recap, which is going to be following the series. But we will see if we can get one recorded to you on Thursday. If not, it will happen Friday ahead of City Connect Night, or we will have a double trouble, which means we will also cover the Tigers series on the weekend from the 16th to the 18th, but this series with the Rays will continue after it starts tonight on May 13th, 2025. It'll wrap up on Thursday with a work from dome game. The next school day game is against the San Diego Padres. First pitch, 1:07 p.m. Eastern. Football fans alert, football fans alert, football fans alert, football fans alert. Y'all ready to hit the gridiron with some new flair exclusively from the Blue Jays? Be one of the first 15 or so fans in attendance to take home a George Springer replica football jersey presented by TD on Wednesday night, May 21st, 2025. It's next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, which is tomorrow, next Wednesday. And speaking of the Tampa Bay Rays, we will play in Tampa Bay, rather at the spring training park of the New York Yankees, which will be the home field for the Tampa Bay Rays this year, until Tropicana Field is either put back together or a new stadium is built for the Tampa Bay Rays to call home. So we will be playing when the Blue Jays hit the road to Tampa Bay. They will be playing at the New York Yankees spring training complex against the Tampa Bay Rays. But first, the Rays have come to Toronto. Alright, so on Blue Jays game recap, we're going to try to cover the Tigers series, but we will be covering the Rays series, which begins tonight. Next time I'm on Blue Jays game recap, double the action. Our episode 12 of season 4 and episode 13 of season 4 have moved our football conversation to just before May ends. This will be we'll record this ahead of the Athletics series, and hopefully it drops ahead of game 2 between the Athletics and the Blue Jays. But that is a 4-game set, I believe, which starts at the end of May, and we will be talking Tampa Bay Rays ahead of that Rangers series at the end of May as well. Looking forward to seeing you there. All right, before we go, next up, of course, there's an ongoing series with the Yankees right now. That was after the Blue Jays battled the Mariners. They will take on the Yankees again tonight after starting a series with them on Monday. They got the off day on Thursday, and they will head to San Diego to take on the Padres for 3 games over the weekend. And they are beginning a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. They'll have 3 games this weekend against the Padres, 3 games this weekend against the White Sox, 4 games next weekend, including next weekend against the Astros, beginning on Thursday, May the 22nd, 2025. And then they're back home after an off day on May 26, 2025 for 3 against the Nationals. Then they will take on the Twins for 3, and then the Orioles come to town for 3 before they head back out on the road and take on the Los Angeles Angels and Arizona Diamondbacks. Keeping it to May, they're currently in a series with the Yankees. They will face the Padres next, then the White Sox, and then the Astros. Meanwhile, for the Blue Jays, in their wraparound of May, they will face the Rays tonight until Thursday, face the Tigers Friday to Sunday, off day on Monday the 19th, that's Victoria Day. Then the Padres are here in town, and then the Rays will host the Blue Jays, then the Rangers will host the Jays, and then back at it with the Athletics coming into town to close out May and open up June. That is a 4-game set, wrapping up with a Junior Jays Sunday on June 1st. And the Phillies will also be in town before the Blue Jays hit the road for the first time in June. Alrighty. With that said, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for joining us here today on the show. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Lights up. Let's go Blue Jays. I hope everybody had a wonderful, and I mean wonderful Mother's Day. Have a wonderful I hope everyone had a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. Enjoy the action this week between the Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays. We will be back for episode 12 of season 4 and episode 13 of season 4. That will be ahead of the Rays road trip series. We will recap the game against the Padres, a special Victoria Day edition of a Double Trouble, as we will recap on a separate Blue Jays game recap, the Tiger series from the weekend. And we will also recap as part of this Double Trouble. So this Friday's episode will actually drop on Victoria Day as part of our Double Trouble. It is episode 12 of season 4. That will be our Rays and Blue Jays recap on Sports for Beginners, the logo you see behind me. And of course, that will be a Blue Jays game recap season edition, as will the Padres program of Blue Jays game recap be a season edition. That will be episode 13 of season 4. Another end of the month weekly in sports program is on the way, and that will be happening during the Texas Rangers series with the Blue Jays. We will probably record it on a Monday. We will see, but we'll definitely hope to launch it ahead of the Athletics and the Blue Jays on Thursday. 4-game series with the Athletics is only a couple of games away and 1 homestand away from happening. But first you got to get to a road trip, and first you got to deal with this 9-game homestand, 3 games against the Rays, Tigers, and Padres, and it all begins tonight at 7:07 p.m. We will catch you on Victoria Day for a special Blue Jays game recap and Sports for Beginners season episode. And for all those football fans, we are moving our episode to talk about the football schedule to after the Texas Rangers series and ahead of the Athletics and Blue Jays game number 2. So we will have a Athletics and Blue Jays game to preview on that show, but we'll also take a look when can you expect Bills post-game? When can you expect Dolphins post-game? What will the games this year be like? And I've been in contact with Ryan Talbot. We will see if we can get Ryan on at least before the football season starts. But speaking of football, the giveaway, besides the hockey jersey, the giveaway coming up next Wednesday is a George Springer replica football jersey giveaway when the Padres are in town. Tonight, and of course next Tuesday, since the Jays are here in Toronto, it's Looney Dogs night. Get there early and be sure you come hungry. Baseball, hot dogs $1. It doesn't get any better than this. That is it for this one. Thank you very much for joining us. As I said before, I would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Enjoy the action. And until next time, my name is Scott McGregor, wishing you, if you are driving while listening to this show now, whether it's old news or it's still fresh news for you to hear, I'm wishing you to, drive safely, especially going down to the ballpark. And for all of the Canadians listening, happy Victoria Day weekend. We'll talk to you on Victoria Day with a recap of Rays Blue Jays on episode 12 of season 4 of Sports for Beginners, and a Victoria Day weekend special of Tigers and Jays on Blue Jays game recap in a double trouble Victoria Day bash. Until then, lights up. Let's go. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us on Sports for Beginners, the podcast, for Blue Jays game recap, the after show on Sports for Beginners, the podcast, right after every Blue Jays game. To learn more about upcoming efords, when they drop, and schedule, please visit https://sportsforbeginners0.wordpress.com. Follow the show on Facebook at facebook.com/sportsforbeginners87. Send us an email at sportsforbeginners87@gmail.com. Follow Ali, Thomas, and Scott on Twitter at Scott McGregor3, Thomas J, and ALI Musa. Follow Thomas and Scott on Instagram at SMC_87_ and TM_80 and TM00_. Thanks for listening to Blue Jays Baseball, and we hope to see you soon again. This has been Blue Jays Game Recap. Once again, the website is https://sportsforbeginners0.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening. And when it's time for the Blue Jays to play ball, there's only one chant Blue Jays fans will be using. Catch you later, baseball fans.